What's good? What's good? I am going to attempt to weave together thematic threads of some previous content I have created. So bear with me if it doesn't make sense at first. But the title of this video is The Normalization of the Exploitation of Employment. And so I've talked a lot about the normalization of unhealthy behaviors and how people are complicit in perpetuating these unconscious institutions, organizations, ideologies, etc. And so now I want to provide an example. I have a master's degree in business administration, and I have led teams of 15 to 20 people before. So I'm not just a theorist or an academic. I've also lived a life of leadership. And so I understand somewhat firsthand what it takes to lead people and manage people. And this is actually going to be an admission of my own sort of complicity within the system as I was working my way through college and in these leadership, mainly retail leadership positions. It was very common to need to hire people all the time because it is really hard to find stable, consistent, hardworking employees who are only making $9 or $10 an hour. And I have memories of being kind of a douchey boss. Like, I've always held myself to high standards and high expectations, and I've held those around me to the same standards and expectations. If we're going to be on a team together, we're going to bust ass together. And in retrospect, I feel bad for being an asshole. I don't think I was like an asshole. Like, um, I was just a very driven leader. But when you're talking to people who are making $8, $9, $10 an hour, trying to motivate them to work harder, I understand why it's a losing battle. Because if you're not living like even just a mediocre life, why are you going to want to work hard for other people who are living at least a mediocre life? And I realize there is a large amount of subjectivity within that. But let's just think about $10 an hour at 40 hours a week. That's $20,000 a year. In what world nowadays is rent less than $1,000 a month? And that's the low end, right? And that's with you likely having to share space, and it's just not a good quality of life. And during this time that I was getting my education and working in these positions, I just thought that was our society. I thought that you really could, if you worked hard and busted butt, you would ascend the rung of the ladder. And then as time moved on and I worked in a corporate setting and was actually a little spoiled for a while, I looked around and I saw that society wasn't getting better. And so when I started college, I was 16 years old, and I thought by the time I was 30, I was like, yes, I'm going to work hard. I'm going to get a degree, and I'm going to contribute to this beautiful society. We're like on the cusp of a revolution. We're right there, and I'm going to be contributing to it. And then I hit 30, and I'm like, no, things have gone the opposite direction. The quality of goods has gotten crappier. The wages of the average American have not risen in like 30 or 40 years. There's that really popular chart that shows like corporate profits and average wages. And we've normalized this exploitation by being people who want to move up in companies. So you do what you're supposed to do, no matter if it's right or wrong. or that right or wrong is gray. I would not want to be a retail leader today because I couldn't in good faith do that job. I couldn't expect people who I know are not making even a decent wage to work hard and be happy about it. And so I've commented in other videos that when I go to a grocery store or a retail outlet, some sort of store, I just don't see happy and healthy employees. Because if you're working 40, 50, 60 hours a week for crap wages and crap health insurance in an expensive world, you're not going to have the energy and motivation and resources to take care of yourself. So it's this downward spiral of just shit. And so I understand why people are upset, and I understand why things are so crazy in our world, because so many people are just being exploited. And then these people all think, not these people all, excuse me, but a lot of people think, oh, the government needs to save us. But what they don't realize is that the government is allowing this to occur. I was talking to a friend the other day who wants to get married and have kids, and they were shocked at how expensive daycare was in their area. $2,000 a month. That's like more than the $10 an hour job. And this individual and I, they think the government should subsidize childcare. And I think that's a horrible idea. It's how condescending and patronizing is it to think that normal people can't take care of their own lives, so the government needs to take care of them. What? You can't raise your own children? Here, let's have the government do it. And let's take money from you and from everyone else. And let's just do this horrible redistribution system, which is actually just a veiled way to steal money from the average American. The government is just stealing money from us at this point. It's not a quality redistribution center. It is corrupt to the core. And so, bringing back a point of ideologies trying to, this is an earlier video, connecting it, ideologies trying to destroy the family unit. There's an interesting thought another friend of mine presented to me, that during World War II, when women in mass began entering the workforce, that was a great thing for women's liberation and empowerment. Yes. If women want to work and be independent, by all means. Like I am for freedom. Freedom to live your most authentic life, how you decide to do so. But when the men came home, there weren't jobs for the men. And so it became a battle of the sexes for jobs and labor. And we all of a sudden had a surplus of supply of labor, which drives down the cost. When you have a surplus of something, that drives the cost of it down. And so this constant competition between men and women for jobs and independence has enabled this normalization of exploitative employment, because freedom is awesome. If I was a woman, I would not want to have to rely on a man. I get it. As a person, I do not want to have to rely on another person. I get that. But as a person, I would like to have a family someday. And I do understand the importance of one of the parents being at home. And so the government should not be subsidizing every aspect of your life. The government should be doing everything they can to give you the resources to decide how you want to live your life. If that's, both parents working, totally fine. You're going to have the resources if you're not taxed to death. And if you're given a universal basic income, you're going to have the resources to pay for a quality childcare. $2,000 a month, shit, that seems worth it to raise my child, the sacred being that I'm bringing into this world. So I don't scoff at that. I think people should be compensated well. And so as we bring about the individual revolutions by looking within and seeing how we have been complicit in perpetuating these systems and institutions, we need to remember to forgive ourselves. I forgive myself for that, those behaviors, and pushing for efficiency and not being more compassionate towards people who I know were not making livable wages. I was indoctrinated, I was brainwashed, and I acknowledge that. I made a video that said America has not lived up to its potential, and I firmly believe that. I believe that the ethos of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is a central tenet to existence. It is your birthright. The government is getting in the way of that heavily. Not everybody is going to want to live the same life. So I won't get on a topic. I was going to talk about equity, but I won't do that. Moving forward as we seek to build the new earth, I think a lot of business operations will be most successful. And I have an MBA. My emphasis was in change leadership. I also have a bachelor's degree in finance. So I know a little bit about what's going on. As we move forward building the new earth, I think a lot of businesses would benefit from being partnerships, co ops, collaborations. And if employers struggle to compensate well, there should be profit sharing and or ownership opportunities. And that's like what stock is essentially. Well, stock's a lot of things, but we're not going to talk about the whole finance industry because that's just gross. Buy Bitcoin. It's going to help in the decentralization of our currency. And anyways, okay. So businesses. If you are an employer and you're wondering why it's hard to find good employees, it's probably because you're not able to see the not able to part. As the government and every as the government takes more and more money in the form of taxes, employers are going to be more and more greedy. And as we feel the pinch more and more, the people in positions of power are going to hold on tighter and tighter to their power and to their resources. And this creates this cycle, and we've normalized that cycle. If I was a boss, I would want my employees to be happy and healthy. And I know that's going to require them to be paid well. I kind of lost it. I'm sorry, but my back is like really killing me. So let me wrap up this video. I've said it before and I'll say it again. The average American, when empowered and informed, is highly capable of taking care of themselves. We do not need the government holding our hand. We need the government to protect us from foreign enemies and to maybe act as an arbiter for things like uh, police and infrastructure. We need a little bit of government. I'm not a complete anarchist, but I believe until we address the core issue of corruption within our existing government and the depth that it has penetrated our society, it's futile to argue over this law or that law. Because our issue isn't this law or that law. Our issue is the straight up theft of your money and the way that the corporations are trying to consolidate power so that way we rely on them. Power to the people. Man, fucking power to the people.